Hey everybody, we're going to do a quick refresh on how to kind of do just overview of adding materials, lights, texture, pretty much everything in Maya, okay? Now, I'm going to go over just the basics. Now, you can extrapolate the basics and make it incredibly complex depending upon how many different elements are within your animation, but we'll get into it real quick. Okay, so just as a refresh, right? So I just created a model of a ball sitting on top of a wood table, okay? Now, how we texturize, right? So let's start. I have my models here. I'm going to first turn on texture so I can actually see what they actually look like. And I'm going to turn on lights. Now notice it goes black because I don't currently have any lights, which is a problem. So I'm going to go, and I'm also going to turn on shadows too so we can see what a shadows projection looks like. I'm going to go to rendering. And in this rendering tab, you're going to see that I have my lights and I also have my textures or the materials that I can add to whatever surface I want. Okay, so I'm going to add in a light, and I'm going to choose. There's a couple here. Ambient is one I never use. I think it can be a little bit overwhelming. I think there's better ways to create ambient lighting. There's directional light, which is one I use all the time. And then you have several other ones: point light, spotlight. Spotlight's great, and some other ones, area lights. So I tend to use a lot directional lights for doing kind of bigger general lights. And then I use spotlights for very specific type lights. And they, has the thing about a flashlight, but I think it's great for a variety of things. So I'll play around with it. So I'm going to add in a directional light. And you can see in my, where are you at? There, it's underneath. Crazy. So under here is my directional light. And let's go change the direction of this thing. You can see how I can adjust the light. Now I have the shadow that it creates and an indication of just the lightness and the darkness. Now, I'm going to create a second one. Before I say anything else, let me create a second one. Let's make one more. Okay, I made a second one, and I'm going to move this guy back over here. I'm going to move him up, and let's rotate that this way. Okay, so now I have two lights of the exact same luminosity coming from two different directions, right? So you got these kind of competing lighting effects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust. Now, we typically don't have the same brightness coming from two different directions because it creates a little bit of awkwardness. Actually, let's do one more thing too. I'm going to move this one out here and rotate it this direction. Yeah, cool. Now I'm going to move this one this way, forward, do the same thing, rotate it inward. Cool. Now, typically when we're going to light something, we have a key light and then a fill light. When we say a key light, we call it a key light because it's the most key light. It is your brightest light. And then we have a fill light, which on the other side is just a dimmer light. So on one side of your composition, it's a little bit brighter, and on the other side of, like, let's say the person's face, it's a little bit softer, right? So on my fill light, I'm going to turn down the intensity of this light significantly, okay? I don't want it to compete with the other side. I don't want it to be black either, like that. I want to just fill it in with a little bit of light, like that. On this side, maybe we're going to jump that intensity up just a little bit. That's kind of cool. Looks nice. But I also want the color of this light to be somewhere in the yellows. Not super obnoxious yellow. A little yellow. And then over here, let's go the opposite color. I want to choose something in the blues. Again, not obnoxious, just a little bit. And then we can start playing around with some pretty lovely colorings, right? So I know how to adjust lights, placement, intensity, color, okay? So generally how we add lights, add as many lights as you need to be able to create whatever effect you want. I tend to, for ambience, tend to use Arnold's sky domes. I think that it's just a very, very helpful way to be able to create big, big, broad lighting effects all at once. Okay, so I'm going to go to Arnold, and then lights, and then sky dome light. So it's now created a sky dome light, which is now currently white. This is why it's having this effect on your image. I'm going to, for the sake of just an environment, right? You can see, like, notice without that sky dome light I just put on, it was pretty dim, but now that sky dome light on white, it's filled everything in nicely, and you get this really nice, bright, vibrant kind of environment, right? So you may want to put in a sky dome light and then just allow it to be white, just kind of fill things in, or add a little bit of a color to it if you want. So, to get a sense of like a hue of, it's morning time, so you have this golden out yellow, or it's more of a film that's like darker and blue and more grimy or something, whatever. Anyway, so, but for our purposes, I'm going to put on an image of a sky. Okay, so we'll go to File, upload my file, desktop. Now I downloaded this image right here of the sky, which I got from just some website. If you just Google search free HDR files, there's tons of them. There's a ton. I put an HDR free file, and you'll find a whole bunch of stuff that you can download free skies. So I'm going to put on this sky. So now, and the only reason why I put this in here is so you can just see what effect the coloring of this image here, the blues from this image, is now tinting my image here with a little bit of blue. So everything kind of has like a little bit of a blue hue to it, which is kind of cool and nice and lovely. It kind of makes it feel part of the environment. It's nice, okay? But the problem that we have is that we don't know what material this is. Is this glass? Is it marble? Is it a rock? Is it what is it? Is it a lump of something? I don't know. I couldn't think of anything funny to say. Because whatever the material is, it's going to interact with light differently. Glass is highly reflective. Something that it would be made, if it was dirt, it wouldn't be really reflective. It kind of absorbs the light, right? So once I have my lights in place, we need to start dictating what this material is, right? And so up here, there's only a couple I think you should really use. Standard, which is just a bare bones. It works well for skin. It works well for wood. It works well for a lot of things. And then I have here Lambert, which is awesome for skin and very kind of like chalky or dirt surfaces, things that do not reflect light. And then I have here, which is a Phong, and then I skipped the Blinn. Phong works really well for plastics. Blinn works really well. Blinn works really well for plastics. Phong works really well for like glass and things. So let's pretend that this was going to be like a plastic ball or a glass ball. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, hey, you know what? Right now, it looks a little bit weird because Maya doesn't know what this thing is, but as soon as I click on, hey, it's like a glass material, Maya goes, oh, I know exactly what that should look like. And now you can see that I'm starting to get reflections off of the thing, right? Because it knows, hey, this is a pretty reflective surface because it's more like a glass, right? And then I can adjust a lot of these things over here in my attribute editor when I'm editing this stuff. So, like the reflectivity of it, whether it's really reflective or lower reflective. So like there's a lot of things that you can play around with over here to adjust. And each one has, if I add a blend to it, it has a little bit of a different adjustment to it. So you can get lots of different things, whether it's the eccentricity of the specular shading of blend will give you something that is like highly reflective versus turning that down all the way, and then you get something that's much more like matte and kind of like a hard plastic, right? So there's 1,000 things that you can do over here to be able to create materials. And then let's say for this, I want it to look like it's wood. It's a wood surface. So which material would I use? Would I use a standard surface? Maybe. I'm going to go ahead and use a Lambert though. I'm just going to put a Lambert on it. And then for the color of my Lambert, I'm going to choose an image from my desktop, which I chose wood. Okay, so give it a second. There you go. Now I have the light playing off of this HDR file for my Sky Dome light, and that is affecting my image here of my ball, which still has my shadows being cast. You can see. So again, how we add in lights, how we add in texture, how we add in imagery is entirely up to you. And you can create a bajillion different effects depending upon what it is that you're wanting to do, what effect you're looking for, and how much work you want to put into it, right? It takes time. So that's that, right? What else? The only other thing that I would want you to kind of refresh is how can I take this image here and unwrap it to be able to take it into Photoshop to adjust. So if I chose this image here, this sphere, let's say I want to take it in, give it like a little, it's like some dirt scuff marks on the side or something like that. To do that, all you do is just go to UV and UV editor. And there it is. Okay, so I have, so I'm going to create, make sure it says automatic, it's selected, looks good. I'm going to export out a snapshot of this as a JPEG. Choose where we're going to save it to. Remember, the edge color is really important, so I'm going to choose black, and you'll see why if you don't remember. I'm going to choose, let's say, the desktop, and we're going to call this bad boy 778. It is 9 o'clock, and if you know me well, I'm usually sleeping by like 8:30 because I'm super lame, so I'm tired now. So I can't come up with the really funny stuff. So 778, that's really funny. And I'm gonna save it to my desktop and save, and apply and close because you don't need to do more. All right. Now on my desktop. Oh, you fool. Oh, you fool. What do you do? See, I'm tired, guys. This is what happens when you're tired. What I do. What do you do, guys? Let's try that again. What did I do? Okay, I'm not redoing this video because A, I'm tired, and 2, I'm not really certain what I've done. I don't know, guys. You guys have all done this before, where we unwrap the image. I'm sure that you guys are looking at it and going, oh, you didn't hit the button. I'm sure I didn't hit the button. Done whatever. So UV wrap it. Make sure the edge color is black. That's going to put a black line around all of your shapes, so that way you know where things are at, so you know where to draw. And then once you're done, you saving that out of Photoshop after adding in whatever element you want to the ball, you just choose. Let's go back into object mode. You just choose your image. We can go into, let's add another material to it. So I'm going to go here, add it in color, go choose the file that you created, and let's say that I created this. I know, it's beautiful, right? Now, I just chose some random file, which when you export it out, when you UV unwrap it and then wrap it back up again, you won't see these seams, because that's kind of the whole purpose, right? So you can literally create anything you want. So that is it. I think that's all I wanted to cover. Lighting, texture, UV. Let me look at my notes. We'll make sure. Yeah. I think we're good. So. And if you don't know how to do a thing, I would strongly encourage you to ask people in the class. There's a lot of people in your class that know how to do this thing and are really good at it. And if you can just say, hey, does anybody know about UV unwrapping or anything that I know about how to do lighting really well, I'm sure that they're going to help you. Okay, so Best of luck.